They said I wasn't responsible enough for money. Grandpa's exact words were, "We figured you wouldn't know how to handle that kind of money responsibly." He said it with that half smile old people use when they think they're being wise instead of condescending. I just nodded and said, "Good thinking. I'd hate for you to feel bad about your six-figure gift when my business is already worth 7. That line? It hit the room like a grenade. This all went down at my cousin Tyler's 21st birthday party, a family event big enough to pass for a wedding reception. Grandpa has this tradition where each grandkid gets their trust fund when they turn 21. Tyler's announcement came first. 6 figures, of course. Everyone clapped like seals. Then came Emma, then Jake's. Another round of applause. When it was over, I waited, smiling politely, pretending not to notice there was no "and finally." Nothing came. After dinner, I pulled Grandpa aside and asked what happened. He looked uncomfortable and said he'd decided not to set one up for me because, apparently, I hadn't shown the same level of maturity as the others. He said I'd been blowing money on junk all through college. I didn't argue. I just nodded, smiled, and let him have his moment of self-assured wisdom. Because the junk he was talking about, that was my inventory. I'd been buying broken phones since sophomore year, fixing them and flipping them online. Started small, Craigslist deals, eBay resales, but it grew fast. I learned repairs from YouTube, invested in tools, then expanded into laptops and gaming consoles. By the time I graduated, I had suppliers, repeat customers, and a steady profit. The piles of boxes Grandpa saw when he visited my apartment, business stock. The PayPal deposits he thought were side hustles, revenue. Every dime I blew went right back into scaling my operation. I never told my family because I didn't want the pressure or the attention. After graduation, I moved back home under the guise of job hunting, but really I was going full time. I rented a small warehouse, hired 2 part-time workers, and kept my costs low. I still drove my beat-up Honda and wore thrift store clothes. Meanwhile, my cousins paraded around with their trust-funded toys, Tyler's BMW, Emma's European vacations, Jake's new apartment downtown. At family dinners, they'd tease me about being the broke one. Tyler once joked I should apply at his company to get some experience. Grandpa laughed along. It was Thanksgiving when I finally cracked. Tyler made a comment about how maybe Grandpa was right not to waste money on me since I can't even afford decent clothes. The table erupted in laughter. I just smiled and said, "Don't worry about me. I'm working on something big." 2 weeks later, that something big turned into a once-in-a-lifetime offer. A major electronics retailer reached out. Turns out, my company had been one of their top third-party sellers for months. They just hadn't realized it was run by one guy in a warehouse. Their acquisition offer? 7 figures. 7. I accepted. Then I called a family meeting. They probably thought I was about to announce a new job or engagement or something wholesome. Everyone gathered in the living room, Grandpa front and center, sipping his usual whiskey. I handed him a folder, the signed acquisition contract, and said, "Remember when you said I wasn't responsible enough for money? You were probably right. Good thing someone else is handling this for me now." Silent. Pure, delicious silent. Tyler's face went pale when he saw the number. Emma dropped her wine glass. Jake squinted at the page, mouthing the digits like he thought they might change if he looked hard enough. Grandpa stared at it for a solid minute before asking, "When did this happen?" I told him everything. How I'd started fixing phones in my dorm, how I reinvested every cent, how the junk he mocked was the foundation of a real company. "This," I said, tapping the contract, "is what responsibility looks like when you don't have a trust fund safety net." My aunt asked why I never told anyone. I said, because if I failed, no one needed to know, but if I succeeded, I wanted it to speak for itself. Tyler tried to pretend he always knew I had something going on, but his voice cracked halfway through. Emma congratulated me, but I caught her staring down at her BMW keys like they suddenly weren't so shiny. After everyone left, Grandpa pulled me aside. "I owe you an apology," he said quietly. "I thought you were careless because I didn't understand what you were doing with your money. Maybe I should have asked instead of assuming I told him it was fine, and maybe it was, but I won't lie. It felt good proving him wrong." A week later, he tried to make things right by setting up a trust fund for me. I declined. Told him I'd already learned how to make my own money work for me.